Good afternoon everyone. My name is Kajal Bhavnani and in this video I shall be speaking on an international organization named the United Nations, also called as the UN, the purpose of its establishment, its objectives, structure and the principles of the UN. So let's understand what is the UN. The UN or the United Nations is an international organization which was founded in 1945 after the Second World War with the primary aim of promoting peace, security and cooperation among all the member nations. The United Nations outlines principles such as respect for human rights, equality, and non interference in domestic affairs. So basically, the United Nations was created after the Second World War for promoting peace and harmony among member nations and to ensure that there is friendly relations and cooperation and harmony, peace and harmony among various nations all over the world. The UN serves as a forum for member states to address global issues. So it is a platform, the UN is a platform where all the member nations, where any nation of the world can come forward and address their various issues at the global level. The UN plays a crucial role in fostering dialogue and collaboration on various global challenges. The United Nations is a group of countries that work together to solve problems and make the world a better place. It addresses various issues like poverty, disease, and climate change, and these issues are addressed at the global level. So, major issues that are faced by various countries at the global level can be discussed on a large scale to a large extent at this platform of the UN. Let's understand the background of United Nations, why it was established, what was the purpose behind the establishment of the UN. Two big wars happened in the early 1900s causing massive damage. So as we all know, there were two world wars that took place. First was the First World War and the second was the Second World War. The League of Nations started after the first war, but it didn't work. So the League of Nations was created. It was also like an organization like the United Nations, but the League of Nations was a failure. It was started after the First World War for maintaining peace and harmony, for getting the situation back to normalcy, but it was a failure. It didn't work out. The United Nations began after the Second World War because people realized we need to find ways to keep peace. So, the United Nations was a global platform, was an international organization that was established after the Second World War because the people of the world, all over the world, realized that how the people all over the world realized how dangerous the wars could be, as they had taken the First World War lightly. So they realized that they should not keep quiet now this time and they should take some action for maintaining peace all over the world. So, as an effect, the United Nations was established after the Second World War. After World War II, people saw how dangerous wars could be, especially with nuclear weapons. So, the people all over the world witnessed that in wars, nuclear weapons are used, there is a huge loss of human lives, huge loss of properties, and various other losses. So, the people realized that there needs to be some agency, there needs to be some organization at the global level where the nations all over the world can come forward and address their issues and can solve their issues in a peaceful manner instead of taking part into such kind of wars. Everyone agreed it's up to all the countries to prevent such terrible wars, so the United Nations was formed. So all the nations realized that it is the responsibility of one's own nation for maintaining peace and harmony across among all the nations all over the world. So the United Nations was formed for maintaining peace all over the world, and there were various member nations, various member states which had taken part, which were the part of the United Nations, and which voluntarily came forward to be a part of the United Nations for maintaining peace and harmony all over the world and for resolving their disputes in a peaceful manner. Let's understand the chronology of the establishment of the United Nations. Atlantic Treaty signed by Churchill and Roosevelt in 1941 during World War II. This means in August 1941, during World War II, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill and the US President Franklin Roosevelt met abroad at Canada to discuss their country's conditions, situations, and circumstances that they faced after the wars. This Atlantic Charter laid the groundwork for the principles that would later shape the UN. Decision was made to establish permanent international security mechanism after the war. These both, that is Churchill and Roosevelt, came to an agreement that there needs to be that we need to establish one such organization which could help various member nations for resolving their disputes in a peaceful manner. There were detailed discussions that were held in 1944 and 1945 among the Allied powers, which had faced major losses during the wars. Representatives from 50 countries drafted UN Charter in San Francisco. So there were 50 countries where representatives of all these 50 countries across the world drafted the UN Charter, laid down the various principles that all the nations need to follow, and this was done in San Francisco. UN officially established on October 24, 1945. So after detailed discussion, all the nations came to an agreement, and they agreed that there needs to be some organization for maintaining peace and harmony all over the world across various nations after the war. And as such, the United Nations came to be established on 24th October 1945. So these were the main objectives of the United Nations. The UN is the world's largest international organization with 193 member countries. So 193 member countries were part of this international organization, that is the UN. Its objectives include establishing peace, fostering friendly relations, enhancing security and safeguarding human rights. Economic cooperation at the international level is also a goal. So the objective is not only restricted to maintaining peace and harmony, but it also includes economic cooperation at the international level across all the nations, which is monetary related. Member countries are bound to respect diplomatic privileges, refrain from attacking others, and abide by international law. As we all know, this was the main purpose for which the UN was established, to refrain the countries from taking part into such kind of wars and to try to resolve their disputes in a peaceful manner. The UN is based on principles and rules established by sovereign nations. So it is based on the rules that were made by various nations, and all the nations came on agreement on a mutual decision that these are the rules and principles that all the nations need to follow. These are the principles of the United Nations. All UN member nations have equal status without discrimination based on size, economy, or military strength. So all the nations, whether small or a big nation, are to be treated equally in all aspects according to the principles of the United Nations. Respect for the freedom and territorial integrity of other member nations is mandatory. So one of the principles of the United Nations is the respect for the freedom and territorial integrity of other member nations. So one nation cannot cross the territorial integrity and their boundary of the other nation. Peaceful resolution of international disputes and differences among member nations is required. No member nation should engage in actions that threaten the sovereignty or security of others. So basically, in a nutshell, the principles of the United Nations is that all the nations need to respect each other's privacy and their territorial integrity. They need to refrain themselves from attacking other nations. They need to resolve their disputes in a peaceful and in a calm manner. Structure of the United Nations. These were the main organs of the United Nations. The United Nations Charter describes the structure and functioning of the organization. The United Nations has 6 main organs, and all these organs have their own roles to perform, and they play a crucial role in their respective fields for ensuring that there is peaceful relation among all the member nations. The 6 main organs of the United Nations are the General Assembly, Security Council, Economic and Social Council, International Court of Justice, Trusteeship Council, Secretariat. So these are the 6 main organs of the United Nations, and their roles is described in length on the internet if you research. So I hope in this video you have got the basic idea of what is the United Nations and what role it performs and the purpose for what purpose it was established. So I hope you have understood whatever is explained in this video. Thank you so much.